Welcome back to Midnight Mania Sports. I'm George Hathaway alongside Austin DeCouta. In Austin, we have a great PSA here, or not a PSA, but a great interview with Joe Bradlee, the baseball operations of the Worcester Paw Sox. And Austin, you have the interview right here, so.
Joining us now over the phone on Midnight Mania Sports is the Director of Baseball Operations and Community Relations for the Pawtucket Red Sox, now moving to Worcester, is Joe Bradlee. Joe, thank you for taking time out of your day to call into the show.
Hey, guys, no problem. Thanks for having me.
So, Joe, our first question for you is, how did you get involved with the Paw Sox organization?
Sure. So it really started, I got involved with the Red Sox organization and really sort of got my foot in the door back in 2012. As an intern for the Boston Red Sox. And I graduated from Union College in 2014. And upon my graduation, I was fortunate enough to be offered a position upon graduation. So I spent the following 2 seasons working for the Red Sox in their public affairs department. I was working in community relations, public affairs. I was doing some writing for the Red Sox magazine as well. And so they kind of had me doing a little bit of everything. And when the Paw Sox sold in 2015, and Larry Lucchino bought the club with about 10 people, that sale caused a lot of young folks like myself to kind of make the transition down to Pawtucket, and I just wrapped up my 4th season at the AAA level, and it's been great.
That's awesome.
Hi, Joe. What is your role on a daily basis during the season and during the off season?
Sure. So my title is Director of Baseball Operations and Community Relations. What I do on the baseball side is more facilitation. So, a lot of people sort of see baseball operations and will sometimes think that I have a role in player development. But really at the minor league level, it's more about, our guys getting called up to Boston. There's a lot of movement down to our AA affiliate in Portland. So, I work closely with our PR director when guys get called up and guys get sent down. I've worked closely with our manager, Billy McMillan, and Rich Gedman, our hitting coach. And so that's kind of what my job looks like on the baseball side. But I also oversee all of our community outreach programs, as well as, some of our social media platforms and do a little bit of marketing. I think when you go from a front office in Boston of over 300 people to a front office in Pawtucket where there's, about 35 of us, so, quite literally 10 times smaller, I think you sort of realize that there's a lot of people who wear several hats and multiple hats. And so, in the off season, particularly with everything that's going on in Worcester right now, I probably, my day-to-day is there's days where I'm in Pawtucket and then I'm off to Worcester where we're building a new ballpark. So we're kind of operating on dual tracks right now, if you will. And, depending on the week, I would say typically now that we're in the off season here, my time is sort of divided up almost 50-50 between Pawtucket and Worcester, whereas during the season, I would say that I'm actually a little bit more hands-on in Pawtucket. So I know that's kind of a long-winded answer to your question, but hope it helps.
Yeah, you're very busy, it seems like, with your dual roles that you do with baseball operations and community relations. And let me ask you, now you guys have major league players that come through on rehab assignments sometimes. Now, does your game day activities or protocol with working with the PR director and working with the other organizations change at all when you have a major league player on a rehab assignment, such as Dustin Pedroia or David Price?
Sure, yeah. You just mentioned a couple guys who we've had in Pawtucket here in the past couple of years. Dustin Pedroia, David Price. We had Brock Holt here last year. We had Steve Pierce, a former World Series MVP, with us this season. We had Mitch Moreland. So, yeah, I think my job definitely changes when we have guys like that in the building, just because there's always so much more media presence here. And fans, for that matter, when we have guys like that who are on rehab with us. So, yeah, an increased media presence to cover guys like that definitely, increases our workload, and there's more things that we need to be ready for. But we've got a great team here who's always ready and can handle anything. And it's always great to see those guys. And as the AAA team, you really want to be a productive cog in the Red Sox player development system, and we certainly feel like we are.
So, what community event would you have to say is your favorite that the Paw Sox hosted this last season?
Sure. I think my favorite community event that we do is our Paw Sox scholarship presentations. It's actually this time of year where we're actually getting ready to present college scholarships to 8th grade students from Pawtucket, Central Falls, Providence, and Woonsocket, Rhode Island. For the past 3 years, we've been presenting scholarships to students who are in 8th grade, but just from Pawtucket and Central Falls. And this year, we're excited that the program is expanding into Providence and Woonsocket. And today, we actually went over to a middle school in Providence and surprised Eli Adams, a Providence 8th grader, with the college scholarship, and invited her to the press conference and announcement that we're having next week with our 2019 class of Paw Sox scholars. So that's always a really special community event. These students submit essays and go up against hundreds of students that are vetted and read by their school departments. And Eli wrote a great essay, and we look forward to formally presenting him with the scholarship with our other 2019 class of Paw Sox scholars next week at McCoy Stadium. I think it's one of my favorite programs because, as you guys all know, college can be very expensive.
Definitely.
As a ball club and as a foundation, if we can do anything to negate that and assist with that, that's something that we certainly take a lot of pride in, and so I think that's really been for me one of the coolest off-season events and community programs that we've run here with the team.
And Joe, I assume you grew up as a baseball fan, now working in the baseball industry. Is that correct?
Yeah, I sure was. I grew up in Cambridge, Mass. So right across the river from Boston. My dad was a season ticket holder, or is currently a season ticket holder, and split season tickets with 4 or 5 of his old friends, and so I grew up biking to Fenway Park, just right across the river. My dad and I would bike to games and lock our bikes up and walk into Fenway Park together, and that's kind of how I got introduced to baseball. It's kind of how I fell in love with baseball. I was also a big Mo Vaughn fan growing up. I remember the reason why I started playing was because I remember watching Mo Vaughn on TV and saying, "Hey, Dad, I want to be like that guy. Sign me up for T-ball." And I quickly realized that I did not have the power that Mo Vaughn had, nor could I hit left-handed, and I sort of turned into more of a right-handed, shoot the ball the opposite way kind of hitter, and I played at Union College and had a good college career. But I would say that those two things are kind of how I fell in love with the sport and got introduced to baseball. And I've just been fortunate enough that it's led to a career in it as well.
Well, we would like to thank Joe Bradlee for taking the time to speak with us on Midnight Mania Sports. Joe is, once again, the Director of Baseball Operations and Community Relations for the Paw Sox, a very busy guy. You can follow him on Twitter at Joe Bradlee, Bradlee is Bradley. And he's a really nice guy, George. We really appreciate him taking time to talk to us. He said he got into the Red Sox organization up in Boston. They had about 300 members of the front office, and you go down to Pawtucket, only a very small front office. So a big change for him, and a guy who's done a lot of work, in the Pawtucket community. And, we see pictures on Twitter of him out in the community, meeting community members and doing a lot of work with the baseball operations department as well. So very busy down there in Pawtucket. And as he said, splitting time between Pawtucket and Worcester as the Paw Sox prepare to move over to Worcester in the near future. And we wish Joe the best of luck in his baseball future with the Red Sox, wherever it may take him in his career. And we're talking about a few guys' future in the MLB free agency right now, George. And the first one is Garrett Cole. So a little bit of updates coming from the Garrett Cole rumor mill. As saw on Twitter, John Heyman reported a couple of high-level scouts or info guys report that Garrett Cole's camp, so his management team, his agents, are looking to get him north of $300 million in this next contract. And Cole, a guy who was a Cy Young Award finalist, a guy who led the Astros team throughout the playoffs, and probably a guy who's going to be able to get that $300 million. It'd be interesting to see how many teams are willing to go that high, and if there's a bidding war that ensues, because Garrett Cole looks like the best pitcher in baseball this season.
He definitely does deserve all the money that is going to be coming to him. Potentially a Cy Young Award winner. We'll see that later this week, whether or not with the MLB awards going along throughout the week. And definitely deserved. If not him, it's definitely his partner in crime, Justin Verlander. But Cole, he balled out, especially during the postseason. And even though they didn't win the World Series, regardless of that outcome, Garrett Cole deserves. He's good. Regardless of what team he goes on, he's going to get a lot of money, and he's going to lead that team to a playoff run. And that because pitching is such an important part of baseball that if you can't allow a team to hit and score, and your offense can get one or two on the board, then by all means, that team will be heading to the playoffs.
Yeah, Garrett Cole was just phenomenal this season, earning his third All-Star selection of his career. He was 20-5 this year with a 2.50 ERA across 33 starts. Cole tossed 212 in a third innings with only allowing 142 hits, 48 walks, striking out 326 batters across 212 innings. An incredible mark for one of the best pitchers in the game. But Garrett Cole expected to get nearly $300 million. Another guy who is no stranger to stardom is Josh Donaldson, free agent third baseman, had a nice year with the Atlanta Braves this year. Little bounce back season for him. And there's rumors that the Phillies have some interest in Donaldson. We know they're unhappy with their third base situation with Maikel Franco last few seasons. They've been switching him in out with Brad Miller at the end of last year. So the Phillies are potentially interested in bringing in Josh Donaldson to help their cause.
And Donaldson would be a good fit for the Phillies, considering that they need that just one player to really help out Bryce Harper. And you kind of look across all sport platforms in our country, even in the world, you need at least one or two star players on a team now these days. Look at the NBA, you have LeBron and AD together. I mean, the NFL is a little bit more different because that's more of a team sport. But, I mean, baseball, you look at that, and I think Donaldson and Harper, the duo between both of them, I think would definitely help the Phillies in the long run.
Yeah, Harper got a little bit of help this year from his catcher, J.T. Realmuto, a guy who just was awarded a Gold Glove Award, awarded a Silver Slugger Award, and the Phillies All-Star representative. Realmuto had a career year, and I think the Phillies, like you said, are just one piece away, and whether that's pitching or adding another bat, we'll see what the front office decides to do this offseason. But a pitcher who's has the opportunity to be on the move is Steven Strasburg. Strasburg, a guy who had a phenomenal postseason, World Series MVP, and opted out of his contract with the Nationals. So we'll see what Strasburg's market looks like. A lot of teams interested. I know the Padres have heavy interest in Strasburg. Another National who is on the move potentially would be Anthony Rendon, expected to get near $300 million offers from many teams, including the Phillies, depending on the Josh Donaldson news there. So a lot of moving pieces to free agency this year and a lot of big names out there. But, George, really quickly, let's see. We got some MLB and Cy Young Awards coming up this week. As we said earlier in the show, the Rookie of the Year award winners were announced today, and that was the Astros. Yordan Alvarez won unanimously in the AL, and Pete Alonso of the Mets won in the NL. But Cy Young in the AL, I got to give my prediction to Garrett Cole.
Definitely.
And in the NL, I'd say Jacob deGrom.
I agree with both of your predictions for that, just because of how well both pitchers have performed. Cole should be unanimous, just because of his performance all season long. He said 20-5. And in the NL, it's definitely a tougher race, but I do have to agree with you there, Austin, just because there wasn't any standout pitcher that really made an impact in the National League like how Cole did in the AL. So I agree with you there. And for the MVP, who do you have?
So the three finalists for the AL are Alex Bregman, Marcus Semien, and Michael Trout. Mike Trout, one of the best players in baseball, probably, arguably the best player this decade in baseball, and a guy who wants to add another MVP to his resume. We know he was shut down a little bit early this year due to an injury, but a guy that nobody really knows of, Marcus Semien, snuck his way into the MVP conversation, batted .285 this year with 33 homers, 92 RBI, 10 stolen bases. The Oakland Athletics shortstop. Semien, I don't know how many votes he'll get. He had a good year, but just not a year comparable to Mike Trout, who batted .291 with 45 homers, 104 RBI, and 11 stolen bases. And, of course, Mike Trout brings that plus glove to the field as well. But my pick for MVP, guy who played in 156 games, a guy who hit 41 home runs, had 112 runs batted in, 5 stolen bases to go along with a .423 on-base percentage and a .296 average. Alex Bregman, the third baseman for the Houston Astros, I have him winning the AL MVP.
I might have to disagree with you there. I think Semien might win the MVP, just because he's an underrated player, and it's something new to kind of bring to the plate for the MLB. And it's not like a typical play. I mean, you don't really expect somebody from the Oakland A's to win MVP. I mean, you think Mike Trout.
Well, not when they have less home runs, a worse batting average, less RBI, and a worse fielding percentage.
But he snuck his way in there, though. I mean, he's an underrated player that I think will have a big come up in the MLB in the years to come.
Well, I'm going to have to disagree. Like I said, I think Bregman's going to win, and I don't think it will be super close either. And the NL MVP is going to be an interesting race in terms of which way the voters decide to sway, because you have Cody Bellinger, Anthony Rendon, and Christian Yelich. Yelich only played in less games than the other two. Yelich only played in 130 games to be exact, batted .330 with 44 home runs. But Bellinger was out there every night slugging, and I think Cody Bellinger is going to get himself an MVP award this year. Batted .305 with 47 homers across 156 games. And not to slight Anthony Rendon at all, a guy who batted .326 with 32 homers, but Bellinger was so good, I have to give Bellinger my prediction for NL MVP.
I would like to see Bellinger win MVP just because of just how good he played all season long, and Yelich is a second. I think he's a second place voter just because of his injury, which could have cost the Brewers a very deep playoff run. And I think, honestly, having the Dodgers and Brewers in the NLCS would have been a great matchup between Bellinger and Yelich. But his injury did cost them the wild card game, which clearly, I mean, literally, it did cost them the wild card game. And they could have had a run. Yelich could have been MVP. But I'm going to have to give it to Bellinger as well.
Well, it's going to be, a great race, a close voting race in the NL for sure. I think the AL will be close between Bregman and Trout. I don't know about Simeon, George. I like your confidence in him, but we'll have to see how that one plays out. Moving over to the NBA, the Boston Celtics continue to roll with another win over the Dallas Mavericks at home, 116-106. The Celtics were tied at the half, continued to battle and surge late with Kemba Walker leading the charge with 8 3-pointers made. And wow. Kemba 8 of 14 from deep with 29 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Jaylen Brown with a double-double, 25 points, 11 boards. And Marcus Smart pitching in with 17 points as well. Good team win for the Celtics. Marcus Smart said after the game he's proud of this team. And again, George, they're showing their resiliency, bouncing back after the tough Gordon Hayward injury and defeating a pretty good Dallas Mavericks team with Luka and Porzingis.
Yeah, Porzingis didn't play a lot of the fourth quarter just because of his low performance that he had in that game. And you talked about Brown with a double-double, 25 and 11. Austin, you and I have talked about on this show in the past few weeks leading up to the NBA season and throughout the first few weeks of the NBA season that this Celtics team, if they can win the NBA championship, they need to have a big man that can rebound. And if Jaylen Brown is putting up 11 rebounds, especially for his size, if Porzingis, if you can get 11 rebounds.
And Porzingis played really, really bad tonight. He's a very talented player, but 4 points, 5 rebounds in 20 minutes, and he shot 1 of 11.
That's not typical Porzingis.
That's why I only played 20 minutes.
And you would have thought that Porzingis would have dominated just because the Celtics don't have a big man that can really stop him. And that's the problem that I thought the Celtics were going to have when facing Embiid and the Sixers as well. But this Celtics team, if they can do it without Cantor playing, and Cantor not playing at his high caliber that he used to.
He got cleared tonight and only played 5 minutes, but once he's eventually back, he's going to have to be a guy who logs 20 to 25 minutes a night. And with Cantor's knee injury, they're taking it super slow, as you saw with just 5 minutes played tonight in the game. So, as you said, George, I thought Porzingis was going to have a monster night tonight due to his size and the Celtics' lack of size, but that was not the case. And without Hayward, Jaylen's going to have to step up, and he did just that tonight. And the Celtics will continue to hope that momentum can carry them into their next game, which takes place on Wednesday against the Washington Wizards at home. IT returns home to the Garden. Isaiah Thomas, a guy that I would like to see in a Celtics uniform once again, but I don't know how likely that is to happen.
I don't think it's likely. He's just going to be the predecessor to Kemba Walker, and
I love IT.
Me too. He played with great. He's the complete opposite of what Kyrie Irving is. He plays with passion, he plays with heart, and he plays team basketball. You don't just see that in Kyrie Irving.
And George, with our last couple minutes here on the show, we'd like to answer some questions that we got sent in to some of our listeners through our Instagram. You guys can follow us on Instagram at Midmania Sports. Same username for the Twitter as well. Go ahead and give us a follow, subscribe to our YouTube channel. But George, what are some questions we received today?
Who is going to be the NFL MVP? We talked a little bit about this earlier in the show. Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, both question marks, but Aaron Rodgers sneaking into that race. Run DMC with Christian McCaffrey. Who do you think is going to be the NFL MVP?
I got to go with Lamar Jackson. I think Jackson does so much statistically between passing and running and all the touchdowns he's putting up. I think it has to go to him.
I agree.
What else we got in the question box tonight?
Who is a bigger threat to the Patriots, Ravens or the Chiefs?
That's a good question. I have to go Ravens. They're 7-2, I believe, or 8-2.
7-2.
7-2. The Ravens, continue to dominate who they're playing.
And they beat the Patriots.
The Chiefs lost to the Titans in Ryan Tannehill. So I can't sit here and believe that the Chiefs, who are 6-4, with Mahomes playing against the Titans too, are a bigger threat than Lamar Jackson, who beat the Patriots. So
And I agree the Ravens are definitely a bigger threat, but when it comes down to playoff football,
Chiefs have more experience.
they do. But their running game is not, or their running defense is not good. And the Patriots need to establish that running game if they want to beat the Chiefs. But if they want to beat the Ravens, they got to find a game plan to stop Lamar Jackson.
And they do. And another team who's actually impressed in recent weeks is the Pittsburgh Steelers. They struggled early on. They made a trade for Dolphins safety Minkah Fitzpatrick. They gave up a first-rounder to get Minkah. And everyone kind of gave them a lot of criticism for that trade, as the Steelers weren't going to be a team who competes with Ben Roethlisberger out for the year, Mason Rudolph taking over at quarterback. But Rudolph has done a decent job of leading this team to a couple straight wins now. And Minkah Fitzpatrick might be a lock for Defensive Player of the Year with the stats that he's put up this season for the Steelers. And, the question we got, George, is are the Steelers the real deal? I'm not sure that they're a threat to anybody. I think they're a team who's going to finish about 8-8 or potentially 9-7.
But if you're 8-8 in the AFC, you have a wild card shot in the playoffs.
They do. So I wouldn't say they're necessarily a threat in any way, but I think they're a legitimate football team who you have to play good against because they have solid defense as well.
Yeah, they'll be playing against the Bills in the wild card game, I believe, and the Steelers, you're right, they're not a threat to any team in the AFC besides a few teams maybe. But other than that, I don't see them playing at high caliber as what the Steelers are used to playing. But, I mean, they played with Ben Roethlisberger first game of the season against the Patriots, and they did nothing. 3 points. They couldn't get anything going. So I don't believe, even with Mason Rudolph, even with Ben Roethlisberger, the Steelers are just nothing.
They have some talent to build on. I just don't know how good Mason Rudolph's going to be long term.
No, I don't think so either. James Conner and Juju Smith-Schuster definitely carrying that team into how well they've been playing in the last 2 weeks.
And in our last minute, George, our last question has to do with Alabama. Are they done for the year? I mean, they are ranked still in the top 4 in the college football playoff rankings, with LSU at number 1, 9-0, Ohio State at number 2, 9-0, and Clemson at number 3 at 10-0. And then you have Alabama ranked 4 with an 8-1 record. And I think Alabama is going to, maintain a spot in the college football playoff. I don't know if they'll win, though. LSU looks very good this year, and so does Clemson and Ohio State. So 3 teams that look better than the Alabama team does.
Clemson looking to go back-to-back on a college football championship. I don't think Bama has what it takes, though. This team has been banged up over the last, few games, and with Tua out, and then him coming back against the LSU game, I think it was a little rush to have Tua come back so early, a potential number 1 pick. But honestly, I don't see all the hype in Tua. I don't think he's that good of a quarterback. Yes, he plays and he puts up numbers, but what team has Alabama really faced in the last 2 years with Tua playing? And besides in the college football playoffs, I mean, the Alabama hasn't really played anybody decent, I don't think.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens, George, but I think Alabama will hold on to a college football playoff spot.
Well, Austin, that'll wrap things up here in Midnight Mania Sports. Austin DeCouta, I'm George Hathaway on WJL Power 88. Make sure to follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Midmania Sports. That's MID Mania Sports. Thank you for listening, and good night.